welcome to the Right Fit podcast. My name is Maz Compton and I'm aiming to try and unpack the mystery of influencer marketing and influencers in general. And my guest today is a Maximillian. Max, how are you?
I'm pretty good, Maz. How you doing?
I'm good. So can I ask you what do I call you? What's your real name and what name do you go by? And was that a big decision?
Such a tough decision. No. My real name is Maximillian Radcliffe Matthews.
It's a good name.
It's a long name.
You've got Rad in your name.
Actually, funny story about Rad. My dad wanted to call me Rad Matthews.
No way.
He was like an amateur surfer and everything before I was born. Totally ruined his life. But
wow.
The point is,
I bet you feel awesome.
Oh yeah. Nah, he's got a good job now. Point is that he wanted to call me Rad. Mum pretty much agreed, and then like halfway through the pregnancy, she was like, "Actually, Rad's a terrible name. He's gonna get bullied. His middle name can be Rad." And then I popped out, and she was like, "Actually, there's gonna be no Rad." And Dad bargained, so he got Radcliffe.
Wow, that's a really intense start to life.
Yeah, it's just Mum being like, it's my way or the highway.
Well, she popped you out, buddy, so I reckon that's just the way that goes. Do you know, I have a company and it's called Super Rad Productions. So I've got like a rad radar where anytime I hear the word, I'm like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
So interesting.
I have a company too called Rad Relics, and it's just like 80s and 90s video game stuff.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Yeah, it's just cool things that I find at op shops and on auctions and storage auctions and stuff.
Are you a serial thrift shopper?
Yeah, I'm a serial auctioneer, auction hunter, auction guy.
You go to auctions?
Auction fan,
or
yeah.
you host auctions?
No. Go to auctions. I don't know. Yeah.
Do you think that you could be an auctioneer one day?
I don't have the voice capacity.
Okay.
I get tied up too much. So.
All right. Well, the reason why I wanted you on the podcast, Max, if that is your real name, or should I call you Rad?
It's Caesar Max is fine. Just Instagram name.
Caesar Max. Okay. So how'd you come up with Caesar Max? We're going in all different directions. Caesar Max is your Instagram handle.
Yeah.
How did you come up with that? What does that mean?
Well, it's Caesar Maximillian. I just tried to think of the most annoying, uppity, self-obsessed name I could think of, and I was like, that's me.
So it's you flipping the bird to the institution.
I guess a little bit, but also just being incredibly self-aware. I think there's a proliferation on Instagram of people who take themselves too seriously, and it's good to keep yourself in check.
Great. So you're not one of those people that are taking yourself too seriously on Instagram?
It's all a joke. In fact, someone, I like a particular brand I won't mention now I've worked with, didn't read my post before asking me to work with them, sent me a bunch of clothes, saw my first post, and then threatened to sue me if I didn't take it down. And I was like, go ahead and sue me.
Oh, wow. Now, what happens? Can they sue you?
Nope.
No, because you never entered into a contract. No. They sent you free clothes. Yes. You posted it on Instagram being hilarious, and they didn't like it.
They didn't like it at all.
So that was their bad for not doing their research.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to backtrack with you. Were you an actor back? Tell me your story.
Oh, no, I just do acting, and I have a few things on the side, a few miniseries that we're filming at the moment, but...
Are you a trained actor, or is it something that you just kind of do in your spare time?
Oh no, I trained when I was like 13 and 14.
Okay.
And so I have that public speaking down pat, know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But
and that ghetto slang too.
Oh yeah, ghetto slang.
Yeah.
That was really big when I was in 2006. So acting was a big part of, I guess, giving me the confidence to get into what I'm doing, and also to be self-aware enough and to not take yourself seriously enough. And I guess the training that you sort of have as an actor it revolves around being able to sing at the top of your lungs in front of people you've never met before, a song you've never heard, and just really go for it. And my Instagram is a reflection of that to some extent. But
wow. It's kind of deep. I wasn't actually expecting it to be for there to be such a backstory, but I love that because I'm just like, this guy's hilarious. Let's get him on the podcast. But I love that there is a story behind what you do. So with that said, what is your day-to-day? If you could describe what your day job is, what is it?
I do social media for Maccas with their agency, VML.
Yeah.
So eat a lot of Maccas day to day.
Is that a part of your job, or you just really enjoy McDonald's?
I'm looking at content all day, every day, and I'm like, you know what? That Big Mac looks really tasty. I think I might have to get one. Now we're doing McDelivery, so it makes it even harder to resist. But anyway, beside the point, that's my day to day. I've been a social media manager for 5-6 years now.
Yeah.
And it's really helped me connect with brands who can understand the value of having posts like I post.
Sure. So do you think with your role as a brand manager, a social media manager, that your personality comes through in the way that you deliver content and that people get you on board because they want to hear that voice for their brand?
Yeah, and I think it's also a level of authenticity that you can't reach if you're taking yourself too seriously. If every second post is at Saba, at this, at that, at everything, at everyone, hashtag everything in the history of hashtags. Like, you may have an audience, but chances are your audience isn't very engaged. They're just seeing you because of all the ats and because of all the hashtags.
And they're just scrolling through.
And by now, you know how to take a really good photo with good lighting and contrast. So chances are they'll give you a like. But you'll also notice a lot of influencers these days get barely any comments.
That's true.
And honestly, if you're a brand looking to hire an influencer, you need to look at their comments, because a like is just so easy to throw away. I give people likes for the most mundane things because I'm like, oh, nice lighting. A comment says...
Do you seriously, because I don't like stuff on Instagram because of the lighting, because that's not how my brain works at all. But is that how you...
Oh, yeah.
So you're viewing other people's Instagram posts, I guess, with the filters that you're putting on your own content that you're putting up?
Yeah, and also just from the eyes of, like, when you're managing content for brands day in, day out, you just start to see what things have to be in a photo for people to like it en masse.
Yeah.
You can have parts of it and get a certain amount of likes, but if you have all of it, you're guaranteed to get as many likes as you were going to get out of that post.
Okay. Can you share with us what that is right now? I feel like there's trends. So I think like flat lay was a big thing about 2 years ago, but is there like a magic recipe right now that you can share that would guarantee engagement on a post?
Yeah, I actually wrote a LinkedIn article about it if you guys want to head to my LinkedIn page.
We'll get to your LinkedIn page in a second, because LinkedIn was the one platform I was like, nope, not interested. I'm on too many platforms, not signing up for that one.
Yeah.
But anyway, tell me about the article.
So how to grow any Instagram presence naturally over a year, which is kind of like a study that I did while doing my thesis. And in all honesty, it does come down to a factor of between 4 and 5 things, and that includes good lighting, good composition, a nice mixture of photos, but all within the same theme. So if you go to my Instagram, you'll notice that it's pretty much all portraits.
It is.
It's all portraits.
It actually, there's all portraits in there. Is a gorgeous photo of your mum.
Yeah, mum appears every couple months.
Mum made the cut on your Insta.
And set up a couple puppies and things like that.
Yeah.
But that, for me, was what I discovered. That self-deprecation, humour and actual fashion was what I discovered people wanted to see, because when I posted other things, it didn't go as well, and when I posted that, it did. So my content pillars, you might say, are very small. I only have like one. But for anyone else, for someone who's doing a lifestyle brand, a beauty brand, or painting themselves to be a lifestyle brand or a beauty brand, you need to come up with like 4 pillars, and those pillars are it's like the pillars of your house, and you need them to be strong, and you need them to represent who you are. Once you have those pillars, if you have the right lighting, the right composition, good focus, a nice mixture of content, but still consistent, over time, over 3 to 6 months, you will experience growth.
Yeah.
But that question of like, is there a magic button? Is there like a magic formula to just get instant fame? There really isn't. And if you try and push it with too many hashtags or adding too many brands or celebrities, people start to see through that, and it's not authentic engagement.
It comes across as trying.
Yeah.
That's how I see it. And like, you can tell in a face-to-face interaction when someone's really forcing a conversation or really trying. And I feel like I can see through that on an Instagram page as well. But a lot of people can't. Like, a lot of people can't read people in face-to-face contact. So that's interesting. And so you've mentioned this, and it's something that I have not actually explored with a guest on this podcast before. But looking back on your own posts to go through comments trends, what people are liking, and I guess skew what you're doing moving forward from looking behind seems like a really smart thing to do.
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of people do that. I think a lot of people, they get the composition and the lighting and they get their photo and then the photo's up and out there and they've moved on to the next project or the next brand or the next email to try and get free stuff or whatever.
Yeah.
And they don't have that self-reflection. And I think that's a really big key that people will probably benefit from.
Absolutely. And like also my content isn't strictly driven by fashion or by what people want to see. It's also driven by like the political climate. So my most recent post, I'll just read out the caption for you.
Okay,
I think
please
you'll appreciate it. So it's called The Darkness. And it's part gay vampire, part gay angel. Vote yes in the plebiscite, you homophobes. If you don't, it just means you're secretly gay anyway. It's science. Vote yes. So
Oh, wow.
That's like the typical tone of my post.
Yeah.
Where it's a bit inflammatory, I guess, but in the sense that it's always usually based around I don't want to say the greater good because obviously people have different opinions, but around some sort of social activism.
Well, the greater good for you.
Yeah, sure.
So you bringing the greater good in the pool of influence that you have with the community that you've built, the like-minded people that you hang out with, that's the greater good for you.
Yes, and although I have a girlfriend, I have a very, very big gay community of followers, so...
And is that because you wear your hat backwards in 3 out of 10 photos?
Pretty much. I think it's about 6 to 10, but yeah.
Is it 6 to 10?
I
was
like the
actually
hat.
going to ask you, how many photos do you think that you have on your Instagram feed that have you sporting a backwards cap?
It's because the backwards cap is like the male headband, and I have a lot of hair, and it like gets in the way.
And you just took your backwards cap off for the first time, and I'm seeing your hair, and it's a great head of hair, got to say.
It's thick and white.
What are your thoughts on visors? So sun visors that are the same material as your baseball cap, but just with like the top bit cut out, wearing it backwards but upside down. I know I just threw so many elements in your face right then that you're probably not coping, but just picture it.
Yeah, you just...
Sun visor, backwards, but flipped upside down.
You totally stopped me in my tracks. I don't know. I can't comment on it.
Is that because it's so leading edge you can't catch up?
It's just so in front of the times that it makes me feel old.
Well, that's good to know. So when you were younger, Max, what did you think that you would be doing for a gig? Was social media manager the thing?
No, like social media manager didn't exist back then. I wanted to be a spy. Dead set applied to ASIO and everything.
Stop it.
Do you remember those ads on the radio? And it was like, it would just be a random scene and there'd be like some ladies talking and then there'd be like a tap on the glass of someone's spoon. And then at the end it was like, do you remember how many times the spoon tapped the teacup? If you do, contact us at ASIO. And I was like, Mom, I remember, I'm going to be a secret agent.
Oh my gosh.
And I contacted them. I was so keen. And then it sort of hit me like the reality situation was I'd just be sitting in a room like filling out
Well,
spreadsheets.
no, not necessarily. You might not have been a paperwork spy. Like you might have actually just had to, excommunicate yourself from your family and go like live in a foreign country and legit be a spy.
Can you imagine how much fun that would have been though?
Are you actually a spy now?
Yeah. This is
that would be cool. So did you used to play spy games when you were little? Where did the spy thing come from other than the radio ad?
Honestly, just thought I looked good with slick back hair. Thought I looked exactly like James Bond.
That's definitely the main driver in a lot of future career decisions is slick back hair.
So because of that, and that's now why I take a lot of selfies, because I used to think I looked good as a child.
So at what point did the spy dream fizzle out and you think to yourself, okay, it's not going to be spy. What else can I do with myself?
I was standing out front of Dreamgirls with a clipboard in my hand as their spruiker at 19 years old. And I was like, you know what? I don't know if they're going to be hiring any ex-doormen from strip clubs in the Cross. So
nope. That was the moment.
I remember thinking, fuck, I'm never going to be a spy, am I? Got to get this stupid clipboard out of my hand.
But you look important with a clipboard in your hand.
Oh my God, I felt so good with it as well. I was like, hey, ladies, fellas, you want to come in tonight? Discounts.
Oh, wow. So from standing out the front of Dreamgirls to a solid following on Instagram, your own voice in social media, when did you kind of start taking that seriously enough to consider it an option for a future, I guess, line of employment even?
It kind of felt like one of those things, like similar to when I guess the computer came around, because obviously I'm that old. I remember when that happened.
Oh, you're so old.
So old. That people weren't really jumping on it. People were sort of actually actively avoiding it.
Yeah, because it was change.
Yeah, but even marketing managers and whatnot, like, would, instead of trying to take it on board and learn it and make it a part of their repertoire, they would be like, let's hire an intern and get them to manage the social media. This will end great. And it never, ever did. And I was working in the entertainment industry, doing a lot of those event style things, like doing the door on strip clubs and just actively in that sort of scene.
Yeah.
And I had a taste of social media and I was like, right, this is what I want to do. So I jumped from that, took a big pay cut, and went and worked at MSC Cruises like a marketing assistant.
Okay.
But that's where I sort of started to actually have more control over social media, and I was managing a community, and it really gave me a taste of what it sort of could be if people took it seriously.
Yes.
So the trajectory from there has just been more and more social media, more social focused.
Yeah.
And now, like, in a nutshell, my role would be like a social strategist now, where it's just coming up with social strategies.
Yeah.
Whereas like 5 years ago, people they didn't want social strategies. They just wanted to know how they could get their TV ad to fit into Facebook. Like,
yeah, I know. How does that work? Because how do you get it out of the television and onto the computer? It's so confusing. I think like a real key in your story is the pay cut. I think there's a lot of people who are trying to, I don't know, build their influencer profiles, and they are like, I just want to do this full time and get paid heaps and heaps of money. And guess what? I hear it all the time is like, I interned, I volunteered my time. It took years upon years of refining, of building my character, of getting myself right, and not earning heaps of money before it switched, before I could then go, hey, this is now what I do for a living.
Yeah.
Do you agree?
Absolutely. And I'm not even like...
You're not a billionaire?
No. And any influencer who is less than like 1 million followers who tells you that they're making a decent salary off
is lying.
They're absolutely lying. Yeah. And here's what I'll admit. You do get sent a ridiculous amount of free stuff.
What's the best free stuff you've been given?
This watch. I actually love this watch.
It's
rose gold and black.
I'm going to say snazzy watch.
I feel snazzy wearing it.
It's snazzy.
I like this bracelet too, but I feel a bit feminine wearing it.
And so, no, the bracelet's cool too. It's sort of a bit like, hey, I just went to Indonesia on a holiday, but it's cool.
Hey.
So the watch, they just sent it to you?
Yeah, they sent it to me recently. I think that's why I like it. I've had, late last year, I had a really good thing going with Hidden Characters. I think it was Hidden Characters. It was a PR agency that managed Universal. And every time there was a release, they used to send me like a care package of all this cool stuff. And it was a really interesting play. They actually organized it through therightfit.
Okay.
It was a really interesting play because instead of saying, hey, like, have $500, give us a post, they were like, hey, we want you to post about Magnificent Seven, which was this cowboy movie.
Yes.
And they
Has
sent...
that got... Who was in
Chris
Magnificent?
Pratt.
Yes. I'm thinking of something totally different. I'm thinking of something with an 8 in it. Anyway, keep going.
Oh,
the Hateful
Eight?
Eight?
To me. Don't do that.
Is it the Hateful Eight?
No, it wasn't the Hateful Eight, but that is another movie.
Okay.
Yeah, so they sent me like a really cool decanter and like a really fancy whiskey so I could like do a photo shoot with it. But it was like such a nice present and I didn't expect it that I just went out and bought a cowboy outfit and did a sick cowboy photo shoot anyway.
Okay, that's epic.
Yeah.
I love that that's just what you do spontaneously, like, hell's yeah, getting a cowboy outfit and away we go.
Yep. And yeah, I'm always dressing up in outfits. Like the most recent one was as like a dark angel. But then this one is as a NASA astronaut.
I saw that. Yeah, that's a pretty good photo too.
Did you know that it's actually easier to become a astronaut than it is to become a sperm donor?
Did not know that. How do you know that?
One of our clients is a fertility clinic, Janaea. Yeah, it's a little known fact. It's actually really hard to become a sperm donor because there's so many checks and balances that go into it.
It kind of makes sense. It's a very intimate thing to do.
Well, you'd think so, but then you hear on the news that like they're running out of red-headed sperm, and it's like, well,
good.
Okay.
Sorry if I offended anyone, but you know, whatevs. So back to your story. We really got sidetracked. It happens. It happens on this podcast. What do you reckon the landscape's going to look like in, let's say, 2 years? I would say 5, but I feel like 5 is just impossible to try and wrap your head around because it's changing so super quickly. There's new technology, there's new platforms, there's platforms dying out as we speak. So what do you reckon in 2 years your job looks like or your day-to-day will look like?
I know for a fact that I'll start with the most boring, but AI community management, so artificial intelligence assisted community management, where something like IBM's Watson will read every comment that a big company like McDonald's gets, which is thousands a day. They'll process it and then they'll submit to the community managers 3 top answers to sort of hit go on. The community manager will then just have them pop up and go, yep, that one looks good. Yep, that one looks good. And we'll remove the need to have to individually craft responses, which is a huge pain point for pages that have a ridiculous amount of traffic.
That's big, heavy hitter corporate. Mm-hmm. That's like your big brands, your supermarkets, your big giant retailers. Yeah. That's like a whole sphere. What about startups and small brands and coconut water and what about the little guys? What do you think is going to happen? Because I feel at the moment, I mean, look, I don't know the exact pulse of the entire influencer industry, but I feel like there's a lot of smaller brands going and giving their product away for free with an expectation that an influencer is going to post on their social media platform for free or for $20 or for $50 and that's it. Mm-hmm. And that is, so all of a sudden there's no, I guess, advertising dollars, so to speak, and that has now been absorbed by influencers. Mm-hmm. So you could argue that influencers have kind of wrecked it for everybody, whereas, 5 or so years ago, maybe a little bit longer, media personalities, radio, TV, you name it, if they had a profile, would get paid a lot of money to endorse a product. Now anyone can kind of do it, especially with, I guess, the birth of the micro-influencer who's like, hey, I'm a blonde vegan and I only post blonde vegan-y things, and so brands can tap into that. But I don't know that anyone's making any money because of that. Do you think that's going to shift? Can it shift?
I completely agree with you. I don't think anyone's making any money because of that either. But I think what Taryn's done with the right fit, which I think was needed, was give small brands, SMEs, a platform to have a crack.
Yep.
To offer $50 and some free product. If it pays off, great. If it doesn't, there's the tools and the resources and blogs and plenty of articles that can say, okay, your first attempt wasn't as great. We can fix that. You've had some learnings. This is good. I wouldn't necessarily say it's been wrecked, but unless right now you've got like a couple 100,000 followers, it's going to be much harder for you to become one of those top tier influencers unless you have a very, very distinct point of difference.
Right.
From my time at One Green Bean, and that was probably the most influencer heavy position I had.
What was your role at One Green Bean?
The senior project manager.
Yep.
We worked on Coke and Fanta and Fuse Iced Tea, and we did some really cool stuff.
Did you work on anything other than drinks?
No, not at One Green Bean, because it's just the Coke account.
Yeah.
They're like a big part of One Green Bean's business.
Yeah, wow.
But we did a really cool piece of content with Mashton Kutcher, and I implore anyone listening to go and check it out. It was a collab with Fanta. Now, Coke and Fuse Iced Tea, they had really successful influencer campaigns, but Fanta, they sort of turned around and said, what would you guys do if you had free reign? And we pitched them some really eclectic and different influencers, and like the combined approach of using not just one genre, but multiple genres who all had the same characteristic of being relatable. So they weren't like lofty beauty influencers who no one could relate to. They were like down to earth, really fun guys and girls. And I think in total impressions on that was like in the millions. So,
which is good.
Yeah, you want millions, right?
That's sure.
Yeah, but they were all large scale influencers, and they've all been building for years. Like one of them, Bella Fiore, and another Brittany Saunders, who we didn't end up using in the end, but they've been around since they were 15, 16, and now they're in their 20s.
Yeah.
So it makes sense that they've got 1 million followers. But getting started from scratch now as someone like that, like a beauty influencer, a lifestyle influencer, a flat lay expert, basically more of the same, you'll find it almost impossible, if not impossible, to crack it, because if you think about it, you're not offering anything different. You're just adding to the noise. So if to combat that, if you're addicted to lifestyle stuff, if you're addicted to flat lays, you can still do them, but you have to find your niche.
Yeah.
And a few popular accounts at the moment, they're centered around creating really cool and highly customized like pins, enamel pins.
Oh, wow.
Crochet art.
So that's all through, I am assuming that they sell their stuff on Etsy. And
Instagram, basically.
Yeah,
Etsy's,
wow.
In Australia, it's not as big. It's a lot of Instagram sales. And if you actually go on the Facebook website, they use some of those like crafty style projects as examples of how you can take advantage of their ad platform.
Yeah, wow.
Because, I mean, Facebook owns Instagram, so you advertise
Sure.
on, yeah.
It's all the same.
All the same.
It's all going to the one bank account, right?
Yeah.
I assume, I don't know,
Sure.
how many Facebook posts do you boost and how much does it cost? It's endless. You boost a Facebook post and then a week later they're like, here are your results. And if you want to reach more people, you can just sling us another $100 and
Why
you go,
not?
well, that sounds exciting because I want the results. I want the hard analytics. Speaking of analytics, so how important is it for brands to know exactly how many people are following them, liking them, commenting, Is it important, or is it just like, does it really matter that much?
The amount of brands that come to us on a daily basis, even come to me personally, and say, I need 20,000 followers by this date. And
it's so
like,
dumb.
What do you need them for? We need
To
them
follow.
We need them so that we can show like social proof. We need them to show our board that we're doing our job. And to be honest,
It doesn't work like that, hey?
Yeah, no, it doesn't. But their reasons for it, their reasons of needing to show social proof and needing to show the board they're doing a good job are both valid. So from their perspective, they don't care how the 20,000 likes are received. They just need the 20,000 likes.
Bots.
Now,
Do you just buy bots?
No, and see that would be unethical. But what you can do, and usually this is the case with most like multinationals, is that say,
Email all your friends.
well, here's $50,000 for an ad spend. Like you can buy them. Like Facebook have Facebook like ads that are just designed to get more likes
Just
on the page,
like-
and
just
they'll
like
just
'em.
buy the likes.
Yeah.
And they're legally buying likes because it's actually paying Facebook so that it shows the page.
Well,
to
people
who
are
gonna
actually
like it.
actively going and liking the page, but your spend is making that page sit in front of more eyes.
Yes,
technically
exactly.
speaking, that's what's happening.
And so that it's a vanity metric. And like if the one thing that I've learned about social media over 5 years is that the most important thing is the community. And if you don't have a community, if you don't have an engaged community who likes your posts, who keeps coming back for more, you aren't doing anything. You might as well just be standing in a dark room and yelling because no one's actually paying attention. You're getting flyby likes and flyby engagement instead of actual real communities who are like, oh, I wonder what Max has posted today.
yeah.
And that stickiness is just, it's eluded every brand today. Like there's very few brands who've got a sticky Facebook page or a sticky Instagram account. That
It's so true.
Yeah.
And then, and that's also people. There's brands that's super out in leading edge, like way ahead of the game. They're doing really cool stuff, and then there's the people at the back of the pack that are like, so I guess we should start a Twitter. And it's like, do you even know why? Do you know why? And this is something that will come up on this podcast, I think, nearly every time we open these microphones, is you've got to have a purpose. It's what you're saying, that community, they like you and they're sticky with what you're doing because you know why you're doing it. And so therefore it ticks all of the boxes, and it doesn't matter if it's an Instagram post, if it's a video, or if it's a text to your mum. If you have purpose in what you're doing, it validates why you're doing it, and people see that authenticity and they want to engage in that because that's what we all want. We're hardwired for connection. So it's interesting that point comes up so often about purpose, and you can probably tell I'm so hot on purpose and why we do stuff, because if we don't know why, there's no point.
Yeah, but that's a really interesting point you bring up about being hardwired for connection, because I wrote an article recently about Snapchat, and it delved into the fact that like it's number one in my mind, its most used feature is a thing called streaks, and that is basically when you send a blank message most of the time. It's just like a screenshot of the desk. With S or streaks or flames and streaks, just it's about a streak. To a collection of your friends to continue the streaks, which some go for hundreds of days. And there's
it's like tag.
Yeah, but there's articles, there's psychological articles written on how like mentally affecting it is for them to break the streak, because it's like after 275 days of streaking with your best friend, you're not going to be the one to break it. I'm sending it every morning at 6 a.m. I'm not going to break it. You're going to break it.
My gosh.
So
it's like a staring competition.
It's also like, you know, when you're sitting there on Mishguru, which is a Snapchat monitoring platform, and you're looking at all the content that's being sent into you, or as an individual, even as a brand, over the past 4 years of utilizing this, it's 80% kids snapping streaks back and forth to one another just so that they can maintain that sense of connection, maintain that sense of community, because we don't have it anymore. And on Facebook, it's gone. A lot of young millennials, they'll say, oh, it's for mum and dad. But that mentality is even disappearing again, because they're finding a new haven on Facebook groups, which mum and dad can't see.
Totally.
And Facebook pages, which mum and dad can't see.
Yeah.
And so that, I think, underpins everything. It's if you can create a platform, if you can create a community that lets a community feel like a community, then it'll grow itself. But if you create a community that's around you talking at your customers with a sort of paper pixel approach where you get your print ads and just post them online, you're only ever going to seek to alienate them over time. So yeah, it's definitely a bit of a balancing act between showing them what you want to see, what you want them to see, and showing them what they want to see.
Yeah, right. So when you think about like a couple of years from now, are you terrified because the industry that you're a key player in right now could implode? Or are you excited about artificial intelligence taking over? You know, or like whatever it's going to be.
Bring on Skynet, I'm ready. Yeah, no, I'm seriously ready for Skynet. I'm so over this. Just be my overlord.
You just want to lie down and let a robot do it all.
Take care of me. I'm so tired of getting up every morning. No, I'm actually really excited. I think there's going to be a lot of change. I think Twitter's going to sell. It's going to sell soon, and it's going to sell to someone like Disney. It's going to sell to someone who can do something with it, who can actually turn it into a platform for positive change, as opposed to this platform of,
it's just,
you've got something hateful to say about someone,
negative.
Come to Twitter and tell everyone how much you fucking hate them.
Seriously, it's actually terrifying. How much do you reckon Twitter would sell for?
It's going to sell for a lot less than people think. So
that's a very diplomatic answer. Give me a number.
So okay, there was numbers thrown around back in the day of like in the like tens of billions.
Tens of billions.
Yeah, back in the day, like when it was in its heyday, and now I think it'd be lucky to sell for over 500 million, which still sounds like a lot, but
no, that's nothing.
It's not even. Well, you used to be one of the main communication channels in the world, and now you're sort of struggling to find a buyer.
And, yeah, wow.
And I mean, there was heaps of names that were floated at it earlier this year in January, and none of them have bid. So it should sort of tell you something about the state of the business if all its prospective buyers just disappear.
Like, see ya.
Yeah, not for us, thanks. Someone else will come along and buy it, though. They'll make tweets profitable.
So Snapchat is definitely a main social media platform that hasn't been monetized yet. I think it's starting to.
Well, I think they were starting to as well. And like McDonald's does some amazing things with Snapchat. They actually won VML won a couple Cannes Lions for McDonald's utilizing Snapchat with Snapplications, which is basically inviting people to apply to work at McDonald's through Snapchat, which is really groundbreaking stuff.
That's such a cool idea.
But if it wasn't for brands like McDonald's, like brands...
We would all be skinnier, for one.
Well, yeah.
But we're not talking about diet today.
No, we're not. None of that matters. It's part of a balanced diet. Now... I forgot what I was saying now.
Sorry, that was my fault. You were talking about how the big brands like Macca's utilize Snapchat.
So they basically help drive the continued use of it by injecting things like really cool filters and lenses that make people want to check and go, oh, I wonder what new filter or lens is up today. So they're actively helping keep it going. But there's a really interesting article on TechCrunch I advise everyone to read, and it talks about influencers on Snapchat versus influencers on Instagram.
Okay.
And a lot of influencers on Snapchat have gone back to Instagram or just kind of stopped using it nearly as much as they were because they have a home on Instagram. And I sort of spoke about this in my article that like Snapchat has been a really fun holiday, like a holiday in Ibiza that you're just fucked up on the whole time and you don't want to leave, but you know you have to leave eventually
you've got to go home.
because there's nothing in a void.
Yes.
And if you think about it, Snapchat is this ephemeral void where everything you put into it disappears, including your money, your content, and your hard work. Unless you save the video, it's gone.
Yes.
And there is a place for that. And Instagram Stories shows that there's a place for that because it's got like now, I think, double the users of Snapchat. But there's a place for it amongst real content. And what that gives you a chance to do on Instagram Stories is post your perfect picture, you know, perfectly lit, your perfect flat lay, and then you get your likes and comments that remind you, you are funny and cool. Like regardless of what anyone says, people like you. You're okay.
Yeah.
Whereas on Snapchat, you get your views and you go, 146 people watch this. But then you wake up the next day and it's a new challenge to now get more views.
Yeah, sure.
And that vanishing of proof that you have friends and people who like you, I think is a main factor in why people are sort of going back to Instagram and why influencers in particular just sort of sticking with Instagram.
So is there a platform that you know of that could be the next hot button?
No, not particularly.
We're just stuck with Instagram for now.
Well, there's been a few attempts and there's been a few platforms that popped up, and there was one in particular, and the name's eluding me right now. I want to call it like Hello.
It definitely wasn't MySpace.
No, it wasn't MySpace.
It was not.
MySpace is actually a great example of someone who actually sold almost at the height of their game for 580 million, and then was sold for 34 million 5 years later, 6 years later.
Isn't that nuts?
And that's sort of something that I brought up in terms of Twitter as well. But yeah, I don't really see a particular platform right now coming up and taking over. And that's strictly because the platforms that are doing well are doing so well. Facebook is king. And I don't think that that's going to change anytime soon because they can give you exactly what you want in a multitude of ways.
Absolutely.
Oh, you want to know how many people viewed your video? Here is exactly how many people.
I will send you a message about it, in fact. And you want to know more information? Just click here and I will tell you more information. Like it actually is, I mean, it's totally changed to what I think when I did my first ever Facebook profile photo. Like it's a completely different platform to those days. You know, like it used to be, it's like our baby grew up, you know, like so cute and innocent when we all started, and now it's like this just monster. Yeah. So Facebook and Instagram is where it's at. Max, thank you so much for all of your honesty. Where can people follow you?
My Instagram is Caesar Maximillian, but it's the historical way to spell it. So yeah, you guys.
So like the salad.
Yeah, I guess so. Is the salad spelled like this?
With a C?
But A-E, or is it E?
I think so, but I wish I knew the answer to this, but I don't.
Yeah, my number plate is Caesar, and the amount of times that I'll be on the phone and they'll be like, how do you spell that? And I'm like,
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure it's A-E. And they're like, what's the last one? I'm like, I don't know.
I don't understand.
It's not my actual name.
I'm sure you guys will find it. Thanks so much for your time, and thanks for listening, guys. If you would love to keep this podcast alive, we would love to keep doing it. We'd love you to subscribe, and you can rate and review in the iTunes store. We'll catch you next time. See ya.